You know, and in the interview, he says, I've never seen anything like that, only in TV and the movies. I've never seen it in real life. He's holding her head down.
Lovetta Armstead excelled as a mother to her 3 children and was a strong woman, among other things. JT, age 12, Jarret, age 9, and Jasmine, age 6. She was a 32-year-old Dallas, Texas, resident and a schoolteacher with a heart as big as her home state. Lovetta invited her lifelong friend Gary Green to join her family and take on the role of their children's father because she yearned to complete her family. She had no idea she had given the devil access to her sanctuary. Let's explore the narrative as the subject of our film for today is just before Gary Green got executed on death row. Yesterday executed Gary Green, 51 years old, was found guilty in 2010 of killing his wife Lovetta Armstead and her daughter Jasmine Montgomery, then age 6 the year before. According to court documents, Green fatally stabbed Armstead after learning that his wife planned to dissolve their marriage, drowning Montgomery in a bathtub. Green handed himself in and admitted the killings to the police. Keep watching to find out Gary Green's motivation for the murders and how they were attempted. Green told Armstead in a letter that he intended to take 5 lives. According to court documents, Armstead's boys, who were 9 and 12 years old at the time of the killings, convinced him not to kill them. Green then ingested a significant amount of Tylenol and Benadryl in an attempt to commit suicide. After a few hours had passed, Green handed himself in to the police and claimed to think his family was trying to harm him, despite the fact that schizoaffective disorder was likely present in Green at the time of his trial. Specialists did not sufficiently examine the condition's effects on Green's life or its connection to the killings, according to Green's attorneys. Jurors in Texas are permitted to take into account mitigating circumstances, such as mental illness, while determining whether to condemn someone to death. The Texas Court of Criminal Appeals upheld Green's conviction and death sentence after he filed an appeal. Gary Green was put to death in Texas despite debates over whether his intellectual handicap and history of mental illness should have prevented him from receiving the death penalty. How is a person's mental disorder discovered by the U.S. Supreme Court? In 2002, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled against capital punishment for those with intellectual disabilities. Texas bases its definition of intellectual disability on factors including low IQ scores. 70 is typically seen as a threshold, how inmates interact with one another and take care of themselves, and whether or not deficiencies in those areas first appeared before the age of 18. Green's lowest IQ was 78, which put him in the borderline category for intellectual functioning during his state procedures. At Dallas's Timberlawn Psychiatric Hospital, Green made an attempt to get assistance a month prior to the murders. He received an inaccurate diagnosis, was released after 4 days, and then found himself unable to afford the antipsychotic medication that had been given. Green was also a party to a court dispute that was still pending regarding the state's use of expired medications to kill inmates. For several years, the Texas Department of Criminal Justice has extended the use-by dates for lethal injections, which may result in a more painful procedure as fewer pharmacies are prepared to manufacture execution medications. Detainees argue that the state prison system shouldn't be permitted to prolong the expiration dates of its lethal injection medications. The provision against cruel and unusual punishment in the United States Constitution, according to them, is violated by this practice. According to the authorities, Green killed the victims after Armstead requested that their marriage be dissolved. Armstead had written Green 2 letters on the day of the killings, telling him that even though she loved him, she had to do what's best for me. Green conveyed the opinion that Armstead and her kids were complicit in a plan against him in his own letter, which was irate and rambling. Green drowned Jasmine in the house's bathtub after stabbing Armstead more than 24 times. Do you know how he died after receiving a death sentence without being hanged? Prison staff had to use a vein in Green's right arm and a vein on the top of his left hand, which caused a slight delay in the injection. This was done since they couldn't place the IV needles in each arm. Green was praising the chaplains, prison staff, and all the beautiful human beings at the Polunsky unit, the jail where Texas's condemned men are held, as the lethal dose of the sedative pentobarbital started. Afterward, he exhaled many times quickly before his snoring started. The movement stopped after 9 snores. Family members of the victims hugged and sobbed together. We're done here for today. We will see you folks in the following.